This is homework section 1.5 part 2, and for part 2 we will start off with question number 5 where we need to evaluate the following. So evaluate means we want the final answer. Alright, so 3 to the power 2, that's the same thing as 3 times 3, which equals to 9, so my final answer is 9. For letter B, once I have my negative exponent, what you do with that is you do 1 divided by, and then you put all of this underneath as a positive exponent. And once you do that, the final answer is 1 over, and 3 squared is 9. So 1 over 9 is the final answer for letter B. For letter C here, I have a power 2 here. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can expand this by writing out everything in the bracket twice. So 1/3 times itself. And 1 times 1 is going to be 1, and 3 times 3 is going to be 9. So my final answer here is 1 over 9. Now, if you don't feel like expanding, what you could do is you could do 1 to the power 2. So 1 to the power 2 is 1 times 1, which is 1. And then you can do 3 to the power 2, which is 3 times 3, which is 9. So that's another quicker way to get 9 if you can do the mental math. For letter D, once I have a negative exponent, the trick here is you take everything on the inside and you can flip it or reciprocate it, which is 3 over 1. And then the power becomes a positive exponent. Now, if I continue on here, 3 divided by 1, the inside, 3 divided by 1 is simply going to be 3. And this will be 3 to the power 2, which is 3 times 3, which is 9. So my final answer for that one is going to be 9. Okay, for letter E, there's no brackets here, so we do exponents first. So if you think about BEDMAS, there's no brackets, so we do the exponents first. So 3 to the power 2 is going to be 9, and this minus sign just tags along, so my final answer is negative 9. For letter F, since everything is in a bracket there and you have a power 2, let's go ahead and just expand everything in the brackets twice. So negative 3 times negative 3, 2 negatives gives you a positive answer, so this will be 9. So 9 is my final answer for that one. For letter G, let's do the inside first. So brackets first, so negative 1 over 3 times itself, which is negative 1 over 3. And then we also have this minus sign tagging along. And once we count up the negative signs, 1, 2, 3, so we have an odd number of negative signs, so my final answer will be negative. And then 1 times 1 is going to be 1, divided by, well, 3 times 3 is going to be 9, so my final answer is negative 1 over 9. Okay, let's move on to letter H. And letter H, since there's a power 2 with brackets, let's go ahead and expand the brackets here. So negative 1/3 times negative 1/3. Since I have an even number of negative signs, my final answer will be positive. 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 3 is going to be 9. So positive 1 over 9 is my final answer for letter H. Okay, let's go on to letter I. Since you have a negative power there, the first thing you should do is you should reciprocate or flip the inside, which is going to be negative 3 over 1, the power of positive 2. Now, negative 3 over 1, that's simply going to be negative 3, right? So 1 goes into 3 times, and there's a negative sign, so the final answer here is going to be just a negative 3. And if you go ahead and expand this, we've seen this twice already, so negative 3 times negative 3, 2 negative signs, that gives you a positive answer, so this will be positive 9. So positive 9 is the final answer for letter I. For letter J, let's go ahead and take care of this negative exponent there. So if I have a negative exponent, you can reciprocate or flip the inside. So negative 3 over 1 to the power of positive 2. And this negative sign just tags along. Now, once again, on the inside here, negative 3 divided by 1 is going to be negative 3, right? So negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. So we can simply replace that with a negative 3. And then you can just take this part here in green and expand that because we're doing BEDMAS. So it's negative 3 times negative 3. And then you still have this negative sign tagging along. What I see now is there's 1 negative sign, 2 negative sign, 3 negative signs. So my final answer is going to be negative. And then 3 times 3 is going to be 9. So negative 9 is my final answer for J, negative 9. Okay, so a little bit of work with some of these negatives and these negative exponents here. Okay, 2 to the power 3, that's just 2 times 2 times 2, which is simply going to be 8. For the next letter here, I have a negative power there, so 1 over, and then I take this whole thing and leave it as positive. So 1 over 8 is my final answer there. Okay, next one here, I have a 3 here, so that means everything in the brackets is being repeated 3 times. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is going to be 1. 2 times 2 is going to be 4, and 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So 1 over 8 is my final answer there. So you can definitely expand that, or if you like to do mental math in your head, you can think of this as 1 to the power 3. 1 to the power 3 is going to be 1, like 1 times 1 times 1 is 3. Sorry, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And then if you do just a little bit more mental math here, 2 to the power 3. So 2 to the power 3 is going to be 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 1 over 8 is another way you can do that one using some mental math there. All right, so moving on to letter N, I have a negative exponent, so we can take the inside and reciprocate that. So that's 2 over 1, or flip it, and then you have a positive exponent. 2 over 1 is simply going to be 2, so 2 to the power 3, and 2 to the power 3 has come up a few times already. That's going to be 8, right? 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is going to be 8. Okay, moving on to the next one here. For O, well, there's no bracket, so we do the exponents first. So 2 to the power 3 is 2 times 2 times 2. And there's a minus sign there, so my final answer is going to be negative 8. Okay, for letter P, we do have brackets now, so I would go ahead and expand this. You'll notice that we have 1, 2, 3, 3 negative signs, so that means since there's an odd number of negative signs, the final answer is negative. And then finally, you can multiply this. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So negative 8 is your final answer for letter P. For letter Q, let's do the brackets first. So negative 1/2 times itself 3 times because there's a power of 3 there. And we also have this negative sign over here. So this negative sign just tags along. Now, if you count the number of negative signs, I have 4 of them, which is even, so my final answer is going to be positive. And after that, you just multiply things out. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is going to be 1. 2 times 2 is going to be 4, and 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So positive 1 over 8. And for letter R, I mean, there's power 3 there, so everything in the brackets gets multiplied by itself 3 times. You'll notice that we have 1, 2, 3, an odd number of negative signs, so that's going to be negative. And then you just multiply the tops. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1. And then 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So negative 1 over 8 for that one. Okay, we want the next one here. There is a negative 3 there, so one thing we can do right away is we can flip the inside. So if I flip the inside, that's going to be a negative 2 over 1 to the power of positive 3. And negative 2 over 1, you have to be able to do that in your head, so negative 2 over 1 is simply going to be negative 2. And then if you expand this 3 times, repeated multiplication here, that's exactly what this 3 means. There's 3 sets there. And since there's 3 negative signs, the final answer is going to be negative. And 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So negative 8 is my final answer there. Moving on to letter T, I see a negative 3 there, so that means we can take the inside and flip it. So that's going to be negative 2 over 1 to the power of 3. And then this negative sign there just tags along. All right, we know that negative 2 over 1 is going to be negative 2. And then you can just expand that 3 times, so negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. But you also have this negative sign hanging around. And we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4. So my final answer will be positive, and this will be positive 8. Okay, so that's it for question number 5 there. I will stop the video here, and then we'll do question number 6 in the next video.